Okay, good morning, everybody. Discount Store Jason here. Going to give you the recap for Chronicles of Blackfish Bay, episode 48. We don't have a title yet. This is the Joth game. Picking up exactly where we left off last time, we heard the screams, having just cleared the bandit camp and being in the process of looting it. We heard the scream of a woman and saw down the cliff a giant come up with a capture elven maiden who happens to be Sothan's wife. That's Dell's character's Sothan. It's the same giant as we met a few sessions ago, who's wounded, and he is headed toward the cabin in the center of the clearing. So once Sothan identifies this woman to the rest of us, we quickly devise a plan. Osric says we can lower a rope and descend to the clearing, and I checked the wind to know the wind direction. It's coming from the north. So I say what we'll do is Sothan will go south, and Osric will go north along the tree line so that I can hide in the trees and taunt the giant to come out. And that way the rest of the party can just shoot from the cliff at the giant, and while we keep it distracted, Sothan can rush into the cabin, secure his wife, and leave via the exit of the clearing, which we can clearly see to the southwestern portion. And we know that this leads to the outside because this is the trail that the giant uses to go in and out of his abode. And so as Osric explains this, Hilda says she refuses to stay up top and that she wishes to come down and face the giant, hand to hand. And so the three agree to descend, Sothan, Osric, and Hilda, and Damaris and George the Liar stay up top the cliff with the 2 vials of oil and a crossbow, right? And Damaris is also pretty good with his sling. And so, before I forget, there was a bear we had encountered in this clearing, but it was feeding off of the corpses of the killed bandits. And so Todd rolled to determine what the bear would do. It was sated, having eaten this dead bandit, and so it just wanders off into the woods. And so that's one less problem to deal with. And so having agreed to this plan, we wait until the giant goes inside the cabin and we descend down the rope. The idea is that Damaris will pull up the rope once we hit the bottom of the cliff, and we'll lower the rope when necessary. It's a 35-foot tall cliff. It's not completely sheer, but it is very inclined. And so, we move carefully down. We spot a wooden door by the mountainside, and Hilda recognizes it as a cubbyhole where the Kraken would stow the stolen treasure. And so we note that it's padlocked, and so we figure, well, we'll deal with it after the giant if we survive. And so we descend to the bottom. There's a small stream that we cross, and as discussed, Sothan goes toward the south end of the clearing, and Osric and Hilda go to the north along the tree line, getting ready to take cover behind the trees if it becomes necessary. So Osric draws his sword and beats it on his shield, and basically calls out the giant. Come out, beast. We've met before. You have faced my sword, Giant's Bane, and come and fight me, right? And so Todd rolls for a reaction, and funny enough, the giant is intimidated. And so he closes the shutters on the windows facing the north end of the cliff. And so we just stand there with like at a loss of what to do. And after a moment, we just figure out, well, release I fire a couple of arrows at the cabin just to see if he'll come out, but nothing is going down. And so we wind up yelling, release the elf maiden and we will let you live. And so, much to our surprise, Todd rolls reaction again, and the giant, still intimidated, throws the woman out the cabin door and closes it and bars the door. So the giant is completely intimidated, which works fine for us. I mean, I think we've given up on the idea of killing this giant. It turns out that Todd miscalculated on the actual to-hit bonus that this giant does. We know its damage is deadly, so it's like one hit and you're dead, basically. But we had been lucky because Todd had done the math wrong, and he says, well, you know what, if I made a mistake, the giant is wounded, we'll just say that the giant is crippled, and so I'll keep the same to hit as before. And it's like, okay, that's excellent. And so we return to the guys up the cliff, lower the rope. The elves start climbing up, followed by Hilda, and Osric stays behind, making sure the giant doesn't come out. And we return again to the top of the cliff, right? And so we debate on how to proceed, and we want to take that treasure. So we rummage through the bandit camp and procure a metal pry bar. And so the idea is that because nobody has lockpicks, it seems that the key to the padlock should have been with the Kraken. So the Kraken probably had it in his person, and we just never searched him, or never found it if we searched him. And so Osric ties the rope to his waist and is lowered down by Hilda and the others, and I descend to the level of the door, and using the pry bar, I am able to leverage my weight and just destroy the padlock. Opening the cubbyhole door, there's a bundle of things, and I just grab it. And it's kind of heavy, but it's enough that I can, with Hilda pulling me up, I can sort of rappel up, right? Climb up, standing, drawn by the rope and just standing on the cliff. As we do that, however, the giant emerges from the cabin and roars and approaches the cliff looking for stones at the river's edge, at the bank of the river. At this point, Damaris tries to, add his own effort to helping Hilda pull up Osric, and George shoots a crossbow bolt but misses at the giant. The giant is not intimidated, picks up a stone, throws it at Osric, and fortunately does not hit, so that the stone just breaks next to my head as the rest of the party manages to pull me up to the top of the cliff. We do realize that the giant is now on our trail, and so we decide we must move fast. And so we take what we have, and the heads of the bandits, and the ears of the goblins, and the ram skull with the canine teeth that we had found, and we immediately take off running down the trail, hoping to outrun the giant. And because we had come down this way recently, we have the layout memorized. Todd rolled to see if we made any missteps and triggered any of the traps, but we managed to navigate the area successfully. At the point where it reaches the other clearing that branches into two parts, this is sort of like the antechamber, if you will, of this whole maze of paths through the woods. As we reach that point, Todd again checks to see if the giant has caught up with us, but it hasn't. And so we can hear it roaring and approaching, and so we just make it out the same way we went in. We find the road and keep going as fast as possible, headed to the Long Fangs clearing. And so at the lodge, we're again welcomed by the Alpha, Lord Bolin, and we explain what happened. He seems fascinated by the ram skull, and again confirms that this belongs to some sort of goat men that are men eater, and they eat human flesh and inhabit the eastern portion of the winds. He does offer a reward if we wish to explore it, but I think at this point we're no longer enthused to go risk our necks at the Eastwoods. And we explain about the giant and the bandits to purchase Hilda's freedom, which was part of the bargain that the Justicar gave to us. And so, having done that, and there's also the matter of the goblin ears, and those are good for money, but we have to go to Blackfish Bay to cash those in. And so we sit down with the Alpha at the Longhouse to eat, and we learn that they are out of mead, and that they're expecting mead from Brickett's Bottom, but it hasn't come, and so they don't know why. And so that's something we might explore. At some point, we also sit down and uncover the bundles of treasure, and turns out to be a bunch of gems and jewelry, and it's quite a haul. It's a total of 7,030 pieces of gold. So, we're pretty much sure we're leveling up next session. And so there's also a scroll of protection from undead that we give to Damaris, and a strange ring seems to be made of petrified flesh with canine teeth inlaid on the ring itself. And so it's pretty spooky, and so we just keep it bundled up. And so, we figure it's about 1,757 pieces of gold each share, so it should be pretty nice. And so at some point, Sothan decides that he wants to wear the jewelry, put it on his wife, and go visit the Kraken, because they believe it was the Kraken's people who raided his caravan and took his wife. And so they go over there to sort of gloat, right? But when they reach the prison where the Kraken has been kept, they find that the Kraken is gone. George and Damaris also go with them, but Osric stays behind talking to Lord Bolin. And so, to the Alpha, Bolin. And so, they discover the guard is dead. They're the imprints of the suckers from the Kraken's tentacles, right? It's apparently been strangled, this guard. But the funny thing is, the keys are on the guard, on his belt, and the prison cell door is locked. So we don't know what manner of sorcery or what the Kraken did to escape, but he is gone. And so they get very nervous about this and decide not to tell anybody. And so they make their way back to the Longhouse, and there was also a vial with a skull and crossbones among the treasure hoard, and so the guys look at it and ask. We're discussing, the giant, that the giant's not dead, but it's wounded, and so we could kill it, but it would take, lives would be taken in the process, because one hit will probably kill any of us, which was the rationale behind the original attempt to recruit like a dozen men or something. It's like, if we go in there with a dozen men, we're killing this giant. It's just half the people might not survive, right? But since we don't have a dozen men, we're not really looking forward to that. but at this point, the alchemist Burga, he's like the healer and alchemist for the Longfangs, and so he reiterates that he could make a tincture and use it to kill the giant or capture the giant, but Boland will have none of it. He says that the Longfangs do not employ poison of any kind, and they, if they kill or capture the monsters, they do so honorably, right, by force of arms. And so, but this George again remembers that his conversations with the alchemist, and so brings the bottle to talk to the alchemist, see if he can identify. It's obviously poison, but what kind? And so, they go in there, they try to identify it. I don't remember exactly what they found, but it is poison indeed. I can't remember if it's ingested or contact. I'll have to double check with the guys next time, but it is poison, right? And so again, he offers the sleeping potion for the giant, but the guys say that they'll think about it. And so they return to Longhouse, and at some point someone decides to go back down to the prison. I think it's Dell and Eliza this time, because I think the first time it was just George. I don't think the elves actually went, because this time Eliza is freaked out, right, when she sees the corpse, and they think the Kraken might come in and kidnap Eliza again. So they run immediately and inform the Alpha that the Kraken has escaped. And so the whole camp is in an uproar. People are getting chastised for not noticing that one of the guards has been killed and that the prisoner has escaped. But again, the mystery is how exactly did it leave the cell? And so, search parties are organized, and halfway through this, Sothan determines that the tracks lead south towards the swamps surrounding the Warlock River, which is just south of the lodge. And so he relays this information to the Lord, and the Lord says, if the Kraken has escaped, then Hilda has to stay behind. And we protest because we've purchased her freedom like twice already. Originally it was capture the bandit, and so we tried to trade the bandit, the Kraken, for Hilda, and then we were told it's not enough, that you have to go get the heads of the men, which we killed and did obtain the heads, and now we're told that she has to remain again. However, Hilda seems amenable to the idea, as long as she's not put in prison again. She's just kept as a guest until the situation with the Kraken is decided. So we decide how to proceed, right? We're not really looking forward to chasing the Kraken again. What we discuss it with George, because Hilda is George's love interest, right? So it's up to George. We tell him this. We've purchased her freedom twice, but the Alpha, Boland, is really afraid of what the Justicar will do now that the Kraken has disappeared. And we think this is why he's keeping Hilda. It's just because he's afraid of the Justicar. And so we figure, well, the Justicar left this morning, right? He must be in Blackfish Bay, because it's about half a day's ride away, right? Half a day's walk away. So there's, we still have plenty of time to catch up to the Justicar, and so maybe we'll catch up to him and get some sort of permit or pardon for Hilda, having completed the task he set before us, right? And we're like, let's go to Blackfish Bay, leave the Longfangs to deal with this fugitive, and we can sell our jewelry and and train and improve our skills, right? Because we're looking to level up. And so we decide to make this journey. We leave, and after an uneventful journey, we reach the shores of Blackfish Bay and are about to enter the town, and that is where we left off. So hopefully this is a little bit shorter than watching the AP, and looking forward to Jason coming back and resuming these recaps because he does them better than I do. So thanks for listening, and see you soon. Bye-bye.